Boston is a wonderful city, but it's also the gateway to the rest of Massachusetts, which has even more to offer. As well as glorious countryside, there's also a fantastic coastline and plenty of historic sites to explore. Heading south from Boston, my first stop was Plymouth, less than an hour away by road. Famous, of course, as the final port of call for the Mayflower and the Pilgrim Fathers, here you can see history brought to life. This is Plymouth Plantation, which tells the story of the Pilgrim Fathers and the families who came across on the Mayflower to settle in a new world. And what I like is the fact that it doesn't look easy. Life was tough, and yet they persevered and they survived, and that, to me, is what's so impressive. As you wander around the site, you'll learn about both the colonists and the Native Americans. Hear their stories by chatting to the interpreters who are living life as it was in 1627. Did you come over on the Mayflower?
I did. I arrived on the very first ship. Well, we were a wretched crossing. I don't think any man can say a crossing across that great ocean sea is ever pleasurable, yeah?
Heading further south from Plymouth, crossing the Sagamore Bridge, you arrive on Cape Cod. This is Sandwich, which I always think of as the gateway to Cape Cod. Now, the Cape stretches for about 75 miles, but the towns along it each have their own individual character. Sandwich here has got the church, it's got these houses which are clapboard, but here it's always pronounced clabbered. And it's this sort of thing which gives the Cape so much character. You'll see familiar names of towns, not just Sandwich, but Falmouth, Barnstable, Truro, Chatham, names that sound familiar to Brits, but are totally different and typically Cape Cod. When I come to the Cape, I like to stay in a bed and breakfast. These are old houses that have been transformed into small inns. Each one has its own character too. This one, for example, was once a church, but there are other places to stay too. You can stay in a beach resort that has got tennis and golf, or you can rent a house and make yourself at home on the Cape. Don't be surprised if you see familiar faces here. Cape Cod, and especially the island retreats of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, are renowned for their celebrity visitors. The most famous name of all is President John F. Kennedy. Here at the museum dedicated to him, you learn all about why he loved holidaying on Cape Cod, the sailing, the beach life, getting away from it all, which actually is what brings the rest of us here as well. And JFK left his legacy here in the shape of the Cape Cod National Seashore, a protected coastline of some 40,000 acres. As local expert and guide Arthur Ratsey explains, the geography couldn't be easier.
The Atlantic Ocean is out here. We're facing east. All right? This entire area from Chatham to the very tip, which is Provincetown, is Cape Cod National Seashore. You continue on up under the arm, you'll be in Hyannis, Yarmouth, Falmouth. On top, you'll be to Sandwich, Brewster, and areas like that. But this is how we describe Cape Cod, as an arm out into the sea.
If we were to take a walk along the beach, how far do we go?
Well, actually, if you want to start in Chatham, you could go some almost 50 miles and you'll still be on the beach. Don't wait for me because I'll drive down here.
The beaches, of course, are wonderful in summer, but at any time of year, you'll find plenty of people out and about enjoying the walks and that bracing sea air. But Cape Cod is more than sea and sand. There are lots of other distractions here too. There are wonderful cycling routes, bird watching, nature trails, and fascinating nautical history. Then, of course, there are the fruits of the sea. At East Dennis Oyster Flats, cultivator John Lowell took me out at low tide to see how his special crop was doing. How long does it take an oyster to grow?
It takes approximately 3 years from seed to grow in this location.
And can you taste the difference? Can you taste one of the East Dennis oysters?
You absolutely can. And we're not necessarily better or worse than our neighbors around us, but we certainly are different. Just like a Pinot Noir grape, they have very different characteristics depending on the soil where they're grown. And oysters are the same way. It's a nice briny, clean flavor. Very fresh, with a fantastic finish.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
Try that, Jeff.
Thank you, thank you.
You can't get much fresher than that.
It's delicious.
And just scale the shell when you're done and they'll go right back into the natural environment.
Still on the food theme, cranberry juice is the Massachusetts state drink, and down here you can see cranberry bogs. Grower Jeff Lafleur talked me through the autumn harvesting process.
We flood the bog, we come in with a machine called a water reel that knocks the fruit off the vine and allowing the fruit to float to the surface, which creates the beautiful color contrast, the red fruit floating on the blue water. It really creates a picture-perfect Cape Cod postcard.
And how many pounds of cranberries would be in a bog this size?
Well, we are looking to pick at least 150 barrels per acre, and a barrel weighs 100 pounds. We have about 3.5 acres here, so we're looking at a decent crop.
My final stop at the tip of Cape Cod was Provincetown. By road from Boston, it's 115 miles, and the straight drive would take around 3 hours. But for a quick trip to the Cape, in summer you can come over on the ferry, and that only takes an hour and a half. Provincetown is a community of artists. There are lots of art galleries. It's a thriving gay and lesbian community. There are lots of shops, little bed and breakfasts, and wherever you are, you can't miss this. This is the Pilgrim Monument, and it recalls the Pilgrim Fathers who landed right here in Provincetown Harbour in 1620 after 2 months on the North Atlantic. There's lots more to do here, and there's lots more to do in the rest of Massachusetts as well, whether you want culture, whether you want sport, which is why when people ask me, how long do I need in Massachusetts, my answer is, how long have you got?
Water sports of all kinds are available at the different resorts, and most will include both equipment and instruction.
And I can genuinely say that the service here is some of the best I've experienced in the world.